Your ambassador to the Yarra Valley Writers Festival, which actually started today with the first of our Sunday sessions, Grief and Other Memories. I hope those of you who caught it did enjoy it. The main festival is, of course, nearly upon us. This Saturday, May the 9th. I do hope you've got your ticket. www.yarravalleyWritersFestival.com. And further to those wonderful Sunday sessions, there are going to be quite a few more of them throughout May and June. And we thought tonight we'd give you a little bit of a taste of one of them, pertaining on our session, Why Short Stories Have Big Impact, pertaining to the power of the short story, featuring three fabulous writers, Sean O'Byrne, Josephine Rowe, Alice Bishop. They'll be in conversation with Alice Cottrell from Kill Your Darlings. Now, we thought in the spirit of the lockdown, and what could be more lockdown friendly than a lovely warm fire and a lovely glass of Yarra Valley Pinot, thanks to Helen and Joey. Very nice, very tasty. We'll give you a short story reading. If it goes well, and if you like it, who knows, we might even do a few more. But starting with tonight, a short story from Melbourne writer Sean O'Byrne, featuring in that session I just told you about. Sean describes himself as a bookseller and critic. He grew up in Melbourne's outer suburbs and studied arts, law and acting. This is his first book, A Couple of Things Before the End, and a lovely short story which I think will have some meaning to anyone for whom the word woggle has some relevance. And that is, of course, me, being an old Boy Scout cub. So here we go. Sean O'Byrne's first short story in his book, Scout. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's good you're trying to find blokes that are in it. What did I learn? What did I learn? Let me think. Probably nothing. No, I'm only kidding. Quite a few knots, that's for sure. No, to be fair, I just think being outside. I take my own kids camping now, and I don't think I'd do that unless I'd had that experience in the Scouts. We didn't camp as a family. My mum wouldn't go it. She's not going to stay in some tent. Sometimes I'd go to a caravan park, but Dad, I don't know what he wanted, probably to stay at home. But on weekends now, when I have the kids, we go up to Turro or the Kresge National Park, we camp there. So yeah, if it wasn't for Scouts, I never would have got to swim in a freshwater creek, fry stuff up at night, roast potatoes in the fire, and shoot a lot of stuff. Yeah, we did shoot a lot of guns, which was unusual even in those days for a troop to go out shooting as much as we did. If we saw other troops, or something like at the Queen's Challenge or something, they never did anything with guns, but I think our troop was a bit more shooty. Oh, there was a bit of a gun culture there, because our leader Sarge was a cop, and Notty, the other leader, he was a cop too. Looking back, you wouldn't let any of it happen now. On camp they used to give us a couple of 22s and let us go for a walk. Me and this other kid, Dean McLennan. We used to shoot birds. Or one time up on some farm we shot these ceramic things, these weird sort of ceramic bulb things that were left up on top of a sort of these old electricity poles. Friggin' lucky we didn't shoot each other. Who gives a couple of 14-year-old guns and says, "Boys, go for a walk"? I don't know, it was the 70s, it was a different time. I do give them credit though, like at least they were there. Notty had 6 kids, for fuck's sake. I went to his house once to help pick up some stuff, I think, and he's got all this Scout stuff and camping gear, and there's kids everywhere, and he had this big aviary out the back and all this netting, and he kept chooks loose in the backyard. The whole joint was just full of kids and chooks and tents and crap and more chooks. Fucking, I don't know. People did whatever they wanted back then. People were poorer, but they had more stuff in a weird way. Notty's joint was huge. Dusty, but huge. I reckon he was quite mad, Notty. The big mad bastard. He had all that going, so many kids already, and he's a cop, which would have been pretty full, stressful days sometimes, and he's doing all this extra stuff, taking a bunch of kids camping who are not even his. And Sarge too. Sarge was in the CID. I remember my mother being very impressed with that. He was a detective. But there he was, teaching a pack of dingaling kids how to build a fire. He was no fucking fool too. We were scared of Sarge. He had this thing on camp where you would get very shitty if a kid had his hands in his pockets. Drove him nuts. Like, when we had jobs to do, putting up the tents, but some kid would be thinking about having a Mars bar, you know, standing there with his hands in his pockets and Sergeant fucking bellow at you. You'd shit yourself, dream a little idiot, and suddenly a fucking Sergeant's there going, "What are you doing standing around with your hands in your pockets?" You'd go apeshit, it'd really open it right out. "I do not want to see any boy standing around this camp with his hands in his pockets." And you'd fucking pick up anything, pick up the same pick you just put down, pick up a leaf just to make it look like you're doing something. Fucking hell. You can imagine him yelling at his wife because he found her in the kitchen with her hands in her fucking pockets. Still, he did let us have shotguns. We had shotguns, not just 22s, and a shotgun, that's a big deal for a kid. It's a big gun, they hurt your shoulder. And 303s, we shot 303s. They had a big cartridge, no, a shell, like a big brass shell. I still have some of them somewhere. I've still got my little scout shirt somewhere. Jesus, little badges on it. So yeah, the badges, I'm trying to remember, the badges were a big deal. That was most of it. Like when we weren't camping, you learned to do these things, like tie a knot and you get the badges. We did the reef knot, the bow line, I could do the bow line. And we went to this thing called the Queen's Challenge, which was a day out in some field somewhere, and you had to do things like build, tie or lash all these poles together, like wooden poles in a triangle, and make a thing, not a boat, fuck, I can't even describe it. We made a pyramid out of wood. You lash the poles together, join all your dots, and you made a sort of a three-dimensional triangle. And it was for survival. You made two of them, and you like the patrol, you got up on one and then you positioned the other one in front, and then you all climbed over to the other one onto that. And it was for survival. Now, if you want to ask me in what emergency circumstance you would immediately build two large wooden pyramids, I don't know. I think we were crossing a river? Or snakes. Snake infestation, you've got to get up high, you need a pyramid. Though I suppose the snakes would get up there too pretty fast, they'd be all over it. They'd love a wooden pyramid. Be like a fucking play centre for those boys. So maybe just the river. Get across the river. Strange to think it was like that stuff they make people do now on TV, like on those shows where people have to do stuff on an island, Survivor. This was a bit like Survivor, except there were no celebrities and nobody won anything. We just did it and then we had lunch. And most of it, I should say, most of it wasn't the camps or something like the challenge. Most of it was just going to the hall on a Tuesday night. And you do the badges there, or activities, you do stuff about wildlife and nature. I remember the hall, the Scout Hall. It was on Ely Road and there was a big oval, and on the other side there was a big brown brick hall, and that was the Scout Hall. It was just a wooden floor inside and a flagpole, and every Tuesday you'd get your uniform on, your hat, your woggle, all that, and Mum and Dad would drive me there. Only to think of me in that front seat with all that on, a little scarf and a little hat. Oh, the hat was quite big, had a sort of a wide brim, like a little mini sombrero. And khaki though, you're all in khaki. I'm 12 when it started, that's when you start, 12. But the Tuesday started in front of the flagpole, and your patrol, which is 6 of you, all the patrols, you all line up in front of the flag and you put your stuff out for inspection. You had to put your stuff on the floor. I can't remember what it was. It was all stuff a prepared boy would have, because the Scout motto is, be prepared. So fuck knows, I don't know, you had to have 20 cents for a phone call, that I remember. You put your 20 cents on the floor to show you had it, and then after inspection there was a sort of a ceremony to do with the flag. You pulled a bit of rope and then the flag unfurled, yeah, and you saluted, because there was a particular way you folded the flag, the order, so it looked like a tiny little neat square, and you tucked the rope into that, and then if you gave the rope one tug, the flag would sort of jump right out and be there, and then you'd all salute it. We'd all salute. It all sounds a bit bizarre now. Very military. I forgot about the flag. I suppose the guns were a bit military too, but not really in the way we use them. What else? Badges. Knots and badges, I think we've covered. Wooden pyramids. I feel I should stress the incompetence of us as a troop. The leaders were good, but us boys were idiots. I remember us going into this thing like a checkpoint on this hike where you had to do orienteering, have a compass and pass all those locations. And we get to the last one, the last location, and there's these two old guys, old scout leaders packing up, loading their car, and they're like, "Who are you?" And we're like, 8th Bandura, here to report." And they go, "It's over. It finished an hour ago. Where have you been? Why are you still doing something when everyone else is done?" But it wasn't our fault, you see. We got lost in this aqueduct thing. We thought it was a shortcut. It was all through the bush, this sort of concrete open tunnel thing, and we thought, sweet. Wandered down that for about 40 minutes, eating fucking cheesels, and then it actually led us back into town, and all these kids with their little backpacks on and compasses suddenly coming out of the bush and into the main road of Castlemaine and going, "Oh." So yeah, I don't think Sarge ever found out about that one. I think the guy just ticked us off, so we officially finished. And then we just went really quickly to the car park. Yep, 8th Bandura. And then I did see that bit where you go on to what's after Scouts. Like at 15 you have to leave Scouts, and if you want to go on, you go on to Venturers. Venturers is I think maybe 15 to 18. But I do remember going up that night to Venturers just to go up to have a look like it's an information night, and just thinking, nope. Oh, there was one big goony bloke, big tall gangly red-headed bloke with his woggle on and 18 years old, still in the scouting movement with his 20 cents on the ground. Even me, a dopey kid, now I could tell that something had gone wrong. Venturers just felt like a room full of something had gone wrong. Like already, even in Scouts, by the time you were in high school, you didn't exactly tell everyone what you were doing on a Tuesday night. And the 3 more years of that with that goony bloke, that night I thought, "Nap, that's it, thank you." And Dad said to me, "Do you want to do karate?" But listen, I don't know who else you're going to talk to, but if you do find Notty and Sarge, please do say hello from me. Sarge is probably in a nursing home by now, but if you do find them, say hello. If you see them both, do sort of say thank you from me. Tell Sarge to keep his hands out of his pockets. There you go. Scout by Sean O'Byrne. I hope it brought back some memories. It certainly did for me. And don't forget that Sunday session on May 24th as part of the ongoing Yarra Valley Writers Festival. It'll be a great session all about the short story featuring those writers, Sean O'Byrne, Josephine Rowe, Alice Bishop, with Alice Cottrell convening. If this goes well, I might, will certainly have a sip of my beautiful Yarra Valley Pinot. Might do another one again soon. See ya.